Well, hello everyone. My name is Joey Klecka, and this is my sidekick for today, Tracy Sinclair. And we're coming to you from here, the digital desk here at Alaska's News Source in our newsroom for our weekly segment that we call We the People, or This Week in Alaska History. And we love talking about Alaska history. And it's part of a slow build-up to next year's 250th anniversary of America as a country. And it's going to be a big celebration next year, but as we go week by week towards that, we're going to be looking at big events and big moments in our own state's history. And so this week we're looking at the week of September 29th through October 5th. And, pouring through the records this week, Tracy, there was a lot of interesting things. I mean, there's always interesting things we find every week that happens in Alaska. So we're going to go ahead and get a look at that.
And a couple interesting, particularly since today is the day that a lot of people who have direct deposit started getting their permanent fund dividend checks, that today we have a couple pipeline things, a couple things that were, one that was required to finish before the pipeline could be built, and then kind of a pretty dramatic event that happened to the pipeline, which still shocks me.
Yes.
The video that we have of that, we'll have to show you that here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, pouring through some of that old video, some of the old news coverage that we have is pretty interesting. For those that remember that back in the day, we'll get to that shortly here. But looking at this week in Alaska history, I want to touch on something that we don't have video for, but I still found it interesting, at least important in our state's history. On this day, it was September 29th, 1974. There were two bulldozer teams that met at the South Fork of the Koyukuk River that helped complete a 360-mile gravel bed overlay for the first road in the United States that crossed the Arctic Circle. And it became known then as the North Slope Haul Road. Many people still call it that. But today it is officially known as the Dalton Highway. So those who have driven up there kind of know that, there's that history behind it.
Yeah, it is an amazing road. Full disclosure, I used to work for the Trans-Alaska Pipeline System, and so I drove that road many times because that's how you get to the North Slope, that's how you get to all the different pump stations along the North Slope, and it is slightly intimidating in some places going through those mountain passes, but it is a beautiful road. If you ever do feel like you want to drive it, please be extra cautious, take extra tires, make sure your tires are pumped up, and extra food and water, because a lot of flats on that road.
Yeah.
Because it is still a gravel road, but it is an adventure, and I think it's a great way to go.
Absolutely. Now looking forward to another. When we talk about Alaska, we know that flying in Alaska is always a storyline. There's a lot of pilots that live in the state, and it's a tough state to fly in. It's a massive, a lot of rugged terrain that you're flying over. And so we're going to look at a video from October 1st, 2001. This was a Pen Air flight from Dillingham that crashed shortly after takeoff. It killed 9 people, including 6 from the Bristol Bay Corporation. Now, one passenger did survive initially, but died due to injury complications 10 days later. Again, this is 2001. We're going to look at a story from that week.
The Cessna Caravan sits broken apart in a marshy bog just outside of Dillingham, the remains of Pen Air Flight 350. It crashed shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. Witnesses say it took off, made a slight turn, and then, a half-mile from the airport, fell out of the sky.
At this point right now, my job is to secure the area.
NTSB investigator Clint Johnson says a specialized team from Washington, D.C. will conduct the investigation into the crash. A team like this assembled only for major air accident investigations.
Obviously, with 9 fatalities, as we have in this one, and 1 serious injury, that meets the criteria. Again, it's done on a case-by-case basis, number of fatalities, and also the way the airplane is being operated. This is a scheduled commuter.
Meanwhile, the accident leaves the Bristol Bay Native Association shattered. 4 of its 38 board members died. 3 of its staff were on board, along with an elder and the son of a board member.
As you might imagine, the people that were involved in the crash have family and friends here in our offices and throughout the region, and we're known and loved and highly regarded by everybody here.
Despite the violent impact, Mary Ann Christensen survived. She is a personal care attendant and was traveling with an older person who needed assistance. The lone survivor of a crash that devastates an entire region.
If there are families of the folks that are on that plane that are watching your show, I'd just like to tell them that we share in their grief and sorrow, and we'll miss the folks that were on that plane.
So devastating, so tragic, you know.
Yeah.
Still, after all these years, you still feel the pain of that impact. So
Absolutely.
such a loss.
It was a tragic incident, and you heard in that news report there was a survivor. That was the news report at that time. Of course, we know now that that person did pass away days later due to complications of injuries. But again, that's kind of just highlights the realities of flying in Alaska. We try to make it as safe as possible, but there's going to be things like this.
It is a dangerous situation in many cases. Yeah.
Absolutely. Going forward now to another day in Alaska history. We look at this was an incident that really captured Anchorage's attention at the time. This was in 1999, October 1st, 1999. This was a incident involving the Service High football team. It was a hazing incident. 12 Service High football players, some of their best, were suspended 3 to 5 days after this hazing incident on a game trip to Seattle. There was one victim that was reported at the time, and again, the reports at the time, the Anchorage School District did not release many details as to what happened, but these officials back then said that the 12 Service High football players could have faced expulsion or potential criminal charges based on what happened, again, on a game trip in Seattle. This is a video from the team's next game after that incident with Service. So that was something that captured Anchorage's attention at the time.
Yeah, it's just some footage of the team from that time. So.
Yep. And going forward, going back to flying in Alaska, another incident. This one a little bit of a happier ending, and this was many of you who lived here in Anchorage maybe remember this happening. This was in October 3rd, 1994. So those from over 30 years ago. This was a pilot that was forced to land his Piper Super Cub. We're going to go ahead and play this video here.
On an Anchorage street.
Yes.
Just amazing. You look at that video and, obviously a hard landing. It looks like some of the power lines were involved as well. But,
This was 2nd Avenue in Anchorage near Orca. Apparently what was reported at the time was this pilot took off from Merrill Field. The plane lost all engine power, and luckily no one was injured in this incident. But it's one of those things where, if you're driving to work in the morning, you see that, it's kind of like, what happened?
Wow. Yeah, when I heard, when we were talking about it earlier, and I found out that we did have the footage of this, that is kind of amazing. It looks like it did take out a power pole, and interesting. Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm glad that nobody was injured, and but you see, that was a hard landing for that plane. Wow.
Absolutely, yeah. So now moving forward, that was in 1994. Moving forward to 2001, we're going to show you some of this video.
This is amazing to me. As I said, I worked for the Trans-Alaska Pipeline System for many, many years, and this is somebody shot the pipeline with a high-powered rifle, and you can see the damage that it did.
Yeah, just north of Fairbanks, a gunman who was later identified as Daniel Lewis, 37 years old, and he shot the Trans-Alaska oil pipeline with a .338 hunting rifle. And the oil that spilled was 285,000 gallons, which is about 6,800 barrels of oil that was spilled. And this was an incident that was, when this came up on our news, it was quite shocking to say the least. And then we're going to take a look at at a package, a story that aired that week.
8,000 gallons an hour, 4,800 barrels a day spews out of the Alyeska pipeline. Trees are saturated, the road is covered with it. Oil is everywhere. Deep, big, messy puddles. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil soaking the ground.
I think we're fortunate here that most of the spill is contained on land, and it's not spreading too fast or far as we would have a spill, say, in a waterway.
The EPA says there's no danger the spill will spread to water. Alyeska says it's likely the spill will cause no more environmental damage than the 2 acres already affected. As fast as the oil spills, crews soak it up. They drain the oil to this makeshift pond and then vacuum it out and carry it away in tank trucks. Lots of tank trucks.
You can get up in there.
All of this work, dozens of workers, and a lot of money lost because the pipeline is shut down. All because one man, one bullet.
It's amazing to me the amount of damage that crazies can do. I mean, obviously we've seen it in September 11th, and again we see it here today. It's amazing when you have to try to plan for people that are as nuts as these are.
Crews will try a tricky maneuver to clamp the bullet hole in the pipeline. They can wait for the right moment since they're removing oil as fast as it spills.
That gives us the ability to take our time, do this methodically, and do it correctly.
The worst of this, the cleanup. It could take up to a year. But for now, it appears the most damage we'll see from the 3rd worst oil spill in Alaska history, 2 badly contaminated acres of forest.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and you know, you heard that one of the officials there talking about September 11th. This was October. This oil spill, this bullet that they found that punctured the pipeline. This occurred on October 4th of 2001. That was not even a month after the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. And so the reason I bring that up is because there was talk about, you know, what kind of security do we need to have to ensure this sort of incident doesn't happen again. The oil pipeline, very valuable thing here in Alaska. So, you know, there was that was kind of the talk at the time, you know, following this incident.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, crazy. It was. I mean, just and you see the pressure. How much oil, even with the oil pipeline shut down, because of course it doesn't drain automatically, that how much pressure is going through that pipe, that it's coming out at such a high rate, and really amazing video.
Absolutely. The last thing here we're going to look at today is another incident from 1999, October 5th, 1999. This was a thing that happened at Hanshu Middle School. There we go. This was a day that 900, or actually more than 900 Hanshu students and faculty were evacuated after a malfunctioning light caused a fireball, an explosion in a school oven. Again, something that when you hear about it, sounds scary. Luckily, no one was hurt during this incident.
We do have drills at least once a month, and actually sometimes it's nice to have a little emergency with it, so we really know that we can get everyone out and accounted for.
Yeah, good that nobody was injured with that. That's great.
Absolutely, and then hopefully, if any of you are watching that remember that maybe you were attending Hanshu Middle School at the time, you certainly remember being evacuated on that day, I'm sure.
Yeah, crazy. So
Yeah.
busy week once again in Alaska history. A lot going on.
Absolutely, yeah. We love doing these looking at Alaska history every week. Looking back at our state's history, kind of picking out the interesting tidbits and intriguing, compelling stories that we've seen over the years. And so hopefully you'll join us next time.
Have a great day.